Knockout legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So, today I'm going to talk about rock, paper, and scissors and how it pertains to boxing in the sense of different styles equate to different outcomes in different fights. Now, I'm going to use the example of Joseph Parker, Zhili Zhang, and Joe Joyce. Now, all these fighters have all fought each other. Now, Joseph Parker fought Joe Joyce in the 24th of September in 2022. Now, at that time, he beat Joseph Parker by a knockout. And at that time, he was unbeaten. I think he was on, basically, let me just see. I think it was 14 wins. I think 14 wins, I think it was. No. Yeah, no, 15 wins. He was on a 15-win streak, knockout streak. And he was impressive, and people were talking about him, saying he was the best thing since sliced bread, blah, blah, blah. At that time, Joseph was, I think, 30 and 2. Obviously, that loss there. Now, Josie Parker is an ex-world champion, WBO champion. He lost to Anthony Joshua, and then he also lost to Dillian White. But, like we're saying, rock, paper, scissors. For this aspect, we're going to say that Joe is probably scissors. We'll say he's scissors. Now, he didn't beat Joe Joyce, and Joe Joyce beat him because Joe Joyce just steamrolled him and kept coming forward. And he tried to meet fire with fire, and he couldn't. And that's not his actual skill set. His skill set's more of a boxer, puncher that wears you down, and then eventually, if he can, he'll land a big shot and hit and knock you out. Whereas Joe Joyce kind of uses relentless pressure and uses his size and will keep coming at you until he wears you down and then basically knocks you out. Now, if Joe would have perfected more, how can I put it, brute force knockout power with a little bit less output and probably been a little bit more economical with his work rate, he may actually have got better results in some of his fights, but that's arguably just my opinion. So moving on to the next fight we're going to talk about, which is obviously Joe Joyce himself. He actually fought Zhili Zhang. The first fight he had was on the 15th of April 2023. Now, most people thought this should be an easy fight. Just fought Zhang. We'll probably put up a little bit of stiff opposition, and Joe Joyce should be able to beat him fairly easily. But in this respect, it turned out everyone was wrong. He came in a little bit lighter for the fight, Joseph Parker. I don't know if that was a detriment. I mean, not Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce. I don't know if that was a detriment to his fight, but that was actually for the WBO interim world heavyweight title, and Joyce had that title, which I think he won off I think he may have won that off Parker. Yeah, we won it off Parker. Well, it was vacant, so they both fought for it. But anyway, Joyce coming significantly lighter than Zhang for this fight, and obviously he lost. He got stopped. Zhang knocked him out. It was a pretty bad knockout, to be fair. But he had a cut, and then obviously the fight got stopped. He's got a hook to the chin. So anyway, he decided he wanted to have the rematch. He went back and had the rematch, and you know, same thing. He come in heavier, and he got knocked out again. This was in Wembley. This, I didn't even realise this at the time. But anyway, and that kind of like set Joyce back, because obviously, you know, people were thinking, yeah, this was his chance. He'd get to fight for one of the belts. He'd probably get to fight Fury or Usyk at that time, because I think Usyk had the belts then, and obviously they're not fought yet, so he may have got a chance to fight one of the two of the winners of that fight, but again, didn't materialise because obviously he lost. But right, so in this aspect, we're going to probably call Joyce, would say paper, and he lost to Zhili Zhang. Now, Zhili Zhang can actually box pretty well, and he's sneaky. He's a sneaky counter puncher, and he likes to take his time and set traps and then catch you with the left hand and then hurt you with other shots and line you up with the left hand and knock you out. And if not knock you out, drop you, as we've seen in other fights that he's done. And like obviously he did this with Joyce, but Joyce was made for him because Joyce is a pressure fighter that keeps coming forward and uses relentless work rate and pressure to overwhelm his fighters that he's fighting. But in this aspect, it didn't work against Zhang, because Zhang's just as big as him, and obviously he can arguably take a punch, and he had a decent guard, and he has pretty good fundamental boxing skill for someone that's pretty big. But anyway, moving on to Zhili Zhang. Now Zhang for Joseph Parker, and he lost on a majority decision. He come in a lot heavier than Parker. He come in at 291, and Parker was 247 and a half. It was on the 8th of March 2024. Now, the scorecards were 113, 113, and then 112, 114, and 111, 115. And this was for the W Interim World Heavyweight title. So the title that basically Joseph Parker didn't win against Joe Joyce, he got the chance to fight for again. And obviously Parker was down in rounds 3 and 8, but he managed to win the fight. He managed to actually outbox Zhili and obviously show he had the telling shots and boxed fairly well. Now, it kind of reminds me of the Filip Hrgović fight, where Zhang dropped Filip Hrgović, and basically Hrgović had to scrap to get a result out of that fight. But he did what he did, and he won. But he lost by a unanimous decision. But again, I think Zhang gassed because of the size of the guy. I think after 5, 6, 7 rounds, he gasses. And if he doesn't knock you out or hurt you significantly, and you can box and you can move, you have a significant chance of actually beating Zhang. So in this aspect, we're going to call Zhang Rock. So you've seen the aspects of what we're talking about with rock, paper, scissors. So Zhang beat Joyce twice, and obviously Joyce beat Joseph Parker. So in some aspects, people would say, well, if Joseph Parker can beat Zhang, then obviously why couldn't he beat why couldn't he beat Joe Joyce? Well, it don't work like that. It's the styles that make the fights. That's why it's rock, paper, scissors. That's why I'm using the analogy. And obviously, you know, boxing's a kind of hard sport. It's more about what actual other tools you have in your locker to help you against certain styles. Because even when you think you have a fighter figured out, they can change the style and obviously employ different tools to help them win. So it could even be just a couple of different punches. It could even be a feint and a setup with a certain type of combination that could win them the fight. Sometimes it's down to minutes or even seconds in a fight. Like the Anthony Joshua fight, for example. The reason Joshua finally lost in that fight, even though I reckon the fight should have been stopped by the third round, and basically Joshua looked poor, Dubois knew once he took Joshua's hardest shot, if he come back with the same punch, and it wasn't even really as hard as the punches he'd been throwing prior to that, because Joshua probably, his jaw has had that much trauma and his head's had that much flipping concussion to it already prior to that. Just the fact that he moved into that punch and the momentum of him moving into it to finish Dubois, coupled with the actual punch, made it seem more vicious than what it was. It's just a case of force versus momentum. His momentum reacted with the force of the counter punch, which resulted in him getting knocked down, and it made him look basically a lot worse than what it would have been. Whereas if he'd have sitted back and waited after he actually threw that punch to see what Dubois had done, once he'd thrown the punch, then actually countered him, he may have actually got more of a result out of that exchange than being greedy and jumping on him. He didn't learn the same mistake he learned he made from with the Andy Ruiz fight. And I think it's a bit of why a lot of fans sometimes, I can see why they hate him. They say the arrogance, you see that in him, you actually get to see that part of his persona, that part of his personality. But I suppose fighters need that in the locker room when it comes to boxing, and they need to have that in the persona. But anyway, back to what I was saying about the rock paper scissors, that sometimes the tools that a fighter prepares for a fighter can help win them the fight. Now, if you don't prepare and if a fighter prepares better, then they could win. But like, it's a matter of sometimes minutes, seconds, or even just a look or even a tell in the way they fight. So nothing is actually granted based off of past form or who they've beaten before, or because that person lasted this long or that person lasted that long, that there's a guarantee that you're going to beat this person. Even in rematches, there's no guarantee that a fighter can basically just beat somebody because of the way they beat them conclusively. If the fighter prepares for the other fighter and the fight in the right manner, in the right way, there is a good chance they can actually rectify the loss. Similar to Lennox Lewis against Hasim Rahman, where he come back from that devastating knockout and basically he rectified it and knocked out Rahman like it was nothing, to the point where I don't even think Rahman wanted a third match, if there would have been a third match, because the outcome probably would have been just as telling. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the analogy of rock, paper, scissors? Leave your thoughts in the comment section, like, comment and subscribe, and that is another one from the one and only Knockout Legends. Peace.